Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. In December, Shona Robertson presented her budget, and it was, of course, an absolute failure. It was high tax, lots of cuts. It was a miserable budget that did none so any good. Except, of course, independence. That did very well under the budget, but everyone else suffered. And, of course, within those figures, she made vastly outrageous claims that have now subsequently been shown to be lies. She also, of course, failed to provide the backup figures, failed to publish the other things that normally go along with the budget, because all of them would have made for some pretty grim reading. Well, now the Institute of Fiscal Studies, the IFS, has taken its time. It's gone through with a fine-tooth comb. It's looked at the budget, and it's saying that things are, if anything, far worse than first feared, and that Shona Robertson has effectively lied with all the figures on the budget, that she's spun, that she's presented things which are simply not true, and that she needs to go back and revisit this budget and correct all the mistakes. Is anyone surprised? It is Shona Robertson after all, and it's very hard to do a very complex thing like a budget when you're stuck with an IQ of about 86. Let's have a look. So, Shona Robertson's budget boasts in tatters as think tank identifies health cuts amid misleading impressions. She made the big claim, we're putting money into the health service, the most money ever, we're putting this massive in. Well, we all knew at the time it was a load of old rubbish, despite how they were spinning it, of course. And it turns out that it was a load of old rubbish. So we were right, and you got the truth here first, folks. Talking of which, because we do keep providing the truth here first, do please consider hitting that subscribe button. It massively helps the channel, it helps us grow, and it helps us to spread this very truth. Anyway, the Finance Secretary set out her spending plans in December, but the Institute of Fiscal Studies believes the true picture is even bleaker than made out, with the Tories calling on Miss Robertson to revisit her sums. Well, it weren't her sums. She's not capable of sums, is it? I mean, there's a picture, look. There's a picture of her walking down the corridor. They like to do this thing where they want to appear as though they've got great important issues of state on their minds as they go into a very important meeting. She's going, am I wearing the right shoes? Are my shoes the same? Who made shoes? Why were shoes invented? I like shoes. That's what's going through her mind. Something like that. He's going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. You know. And he is. He's admitted it. These people, they make it look as though they're important and doing things. They haven't got a clue. If ever you watch the film The Death of Stalin, this is these. They're like those. They are completely clueless and don't know what they're doing. Anyway, the SNP's budget plans have been savaged as misleading by a think tank after it identified real-term cuts to the health budget. Finance Secretary Shona Robertson set out her spending plans in December, boasting about increases to NHS funding. But of course that was a lie. The Institute of Fiscal Studies said spending on the NHS could actually drop by 0.7% in the coming year, despite official document budgets suggesting a 1.3% increase. That's what they were saying in the budget, but they hadn't provided all the backup on that. The IFS have gone in and they've looked at these numbers and said that figures did not include significant funding top-ups for health in 23-24, which, when removed, mean it's a cut. It's a real terms cut. And it's cuts everywhere. What she's doing is lying. She's given this budget and she's saying, we're doing this, we're doing this, and doing this. And it's all bollocks. It literally is bollocks. But she doesn't understand the things she's saying. She's probably thinking it's a really good idea. She's had her officials do this. She hasn't done this. She's not capable of doing this. So they've created this, and then they've told her what to say and made it sound as though she knows what she's talking about. Ask her, what's the M1 money supply forecast for the next quarter? And she'll look at you like, I don't know what that means. And she doesn't. She literally doesn't. Experts at the think tank said when all these things were accounted for, health spending is set to fall by 0.7% in real terms this year and next. In terms of local government funding, the Scottish Government claims there will be a 7.9% cash rise, the equivalent of a 6.2% real term rise. But the IFS believes this gives a seriously misleading picture. Instead, once top-ups and the council tax freeze are taken into account, the rise will be just 1.8% in real terms. However, I'm not sure that that's taking into consideration the 200 million being cut from the housing budget. I don't know if they've taken that into consideration. The Scottish Conservatives have now called on Miss Robertson to revisit her sums. The party's finance spokeswoman, Liz Smith, added, "The IFS analysis makes it clear that the impact of the SNP's savage tax and tax budget will be even worse than it first appeared." And they point out that omitting in-year top-ups misleads the public and will lead to real terms cut in health spending. Councils will also lose out by receiving only around a third of the increase Shona Robertson was trying to suggest. Of course, imagine that. Imagine lying. Imagine the SNP are lying for spin. Lying to make it look as though they're doing far more than they're actually doing. But they can't. They're so inefficient. They're so stupid. They're so inept that nothing is right. And in fact, services will be cut. So, we've already seen that there's, 3 councils now are going to go ahead with a council tax rise, regardless of what the wise one says at conference, because the little pittance they're given from Shona is just not enough. And this is what's going on. Anyway, the Finance Secretary has already ignored the Cross-Party Finance Committee's criticism of the SNP budget plans, which warned that they would endanger growth. The IFS backs the committee's view that the SNP budget's shortcomings on long-term planning, the substantial fiscal deficit, and the badly needed reform of the public sector pose a huge risk to the future of public services. And again, this is 17 years of SNP rule. They're saying now there's a major, massive risk to public services, not just to their supply, but to their entire future under this government, because of their massive mismanagement of everything they do. Because they're all morons. Explaining the analysis, IFS Associate Director and one of the report's auditors, David Phillips, said, "By omitting in-year top-ups to spending plans this year, the official Scottish budget documentation gives a misleading impression of how the amounts of funding available for the health service, councils and many other services are set to change next year." He said Scottish Government spending plans for specific areas ignore in-year top-ups to budgets this year, and so typically overstate the increases in spending next year. According to the IFS, spending on social justice will fall by 10.2% in real terms. In real terms, they're cutting 10% from the social justice budget. While the budget for wellbeing, economy, fair work and energy portfolio will be down 5% in real terms. It's cuts across the board. She wouldn't say that. She couldn't say that. We're giving money there. We're giving money there. Yeah, you're giving money, but it's not inflation rated. It's therefore a cut. He said increase in income tax for those earning 75,000 a year or more, who will pay the new advanced rate of 45 pence, and the freeze in council tax would slightly reduce the funding available for devolved public services and social security spending in Scotland. Now, of course, that's a separate issue. We've done this. Social security was one of those devolved to them. They said, let us control it. Okay, then. And then they've screwed it up royally, and they've put tens of thousands of people are now reliant on food banks because they're not getting their social security. And we're not talking like the unemployment benefit here. We're talking things like disability allowance. So you've got already vulnerable people basically starving to death because the SNP government are so stupid, inept and incapable that they cannot run a department. They wanted the power, but they cannot exercise and wield it because they literally haven't got a clue. Anyway, this is we're talking about this cut. The security spending in Scotland was cut because the new band said is raising an estimated 82 million, while the government will give local authorities 144 for council tax freeze. Scottish Labour's finance spokesman Malcolm Mara said the SNP is planning to axe public services and is trying to dupe the public about it, but no one is fooled. He said these cuts will wreak havoc at a time when local government is already at breaking point and almost 1 in 6 Scots are stuck on the NHS waiting list. No amount of dodgy sums and spin can mask the damage this SNP government is inflicting on lifeline services. The SNP must come clean with the Scots about expanding plans for next year and how it will affect public services. Well, public services are dead. There are no public services. Scotland is falling apart because you've got a man who's incapable of exercising power, backed up by a woman whose IQ is the same as my boot. She is literally too thick to understand the issues, let alone fix them. I'm coming up. Lord preserve us from people like this. They sit there, they get things wrong. They know it's wrong. They know what they're saying. And they spin it and they lie. They outright lie to people. Even SNP voters must see that these people are lying to them. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. But as soon as you look at those numbers, you realise that it's lies. It's all spin and bollocks. And that, of course, is why they refuse to publish all these backup documents to the budget. Documents that are normally published, but for some weird, strange reason this year haven't been and will be published at a later date. Hopefully when everyone's forgotten about how awful the budget is. Well, we won't forget and people will look, and then it'll be shown that she is an incompetent liar. Hey ho, you get what you vote for, don't you? Thanks for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.